thanks to the support as a channel member, Harvey2478. We almost won it all last season. We've got one more season of the save because we really want to try out this new Champions League format over the course of the rest of this week. But in the meantime, I've got over £100 million of transfer budget. I've got old men like Kante, Jorginho, who I want to get rid of. I've got the likes of Havertz, who are being chased by the big money clubs. I need to do some shopping. This is going to be another big transfer window. Hello and welcome to part 15 of my FM23 beta save with Chelsea. I'm Kevin. Coming up on today's episode, it is our season review and transfer special, and we kick things off with one of the most impressive season review opening screens I think I've ever had. 5 trophies on there. Obviously, we are missing the big one, the Champions League, that we did win last year, and we hope to win again next year under the new format, but 5 out of 6, not too shabby. We'll absolutely take that. And if we have a look through our season review, I think it's fairly predictable that Jamal Musiala has gone down as signing of the season. Yes, we spent an extraordinary amount of money on him, £123 million. But he ended up playing 60 games, 50 starts, 10 substitute appearances. And in those 60 games, 26 goals, 16 assists, averaged a 7.3. And he's just one of many excellent signings. Tammy Abraham took him a while to get going. But in the end, despite only starting 14 games, he scored 29 goals, 7 assists on a 7.38. I think it's fair to say Tammy is now my main man up front. Calvert-Lewin, though, also weighing in with more goals than starts and a decent average rating. Jude Bellingham, another one similar to Tammy, who took a little bit of a while to get going, but did establish himself in the team as the season went on, starting 32 games in the end at 7.04. Camavinga was also great in central midfield. Coley, fantastic at the back. It was just a very good summer. There's not a dud amongst them. That is 6 very good signings, especially when you take the long-term context into account, with the likes of Havertz, Jorginho, Kante likely to move on from the club this year, or at least in the very near future. The ones who aren't starting week in, week out, like Abraham, like Calvert-Lewin, even like Bellingham, are very likely to get a lot more game time in the coming seasons, next season, season after that, as the older players move on. So a very good establishing transfer window, we'll call that. The board are obviously happy. We were expected to, or they hoped we could win the Premier League again. We have won it for the second year in a row. The one disappointment, of course, that Champions League final. Everything else ended up with a beautiful win, including a 9-1 win over Brighton, where Tammy Abraham scored 5 goals. That was a nice day. Money-wise, we're doing fine. Obviously, as we continue to be successful, all of this stuff continues to increase. Musiala selling quite a few shirts, contributing towards this massive amount of merchandising we've got at the club. And the great thing is, the majority of those top shirt sellers are the players who are going to be sticking around. The one question mark is Havertz, because if we get a big enough offer from Paris Saint-Germain, we perhaps will move him on and go with that front two of Tammy Abraham with Musiala in behind. And you don't really need Havertz in that scenario because we've already got Mount and Calvert-Lewin as backups. I think we could probably we could afford to lose Havertz if it allowed us to do other things that we'd be interested in doing. I'm not sure what those things would be just yet, but you know what I'm like in these transfer windows. This was our team of the year. 4-2-3-1 was our most commonly used tactic, although we did move between this, the 4-3-3, the diamond, as needs indicated. Mendy in goal, a back four of Chilwell, Chalobah, Fofana and James. Really interesting to see Chalobah in there. 2 homegrown boys in the starting back four in the team of the year. Camavinga and Bellingham in midfield really does indicate it's the end of the road for Jorginho and Kante. Musiala, Conor Gallagher getting in there, and Mason Mount, and then Kai Havertz up front. So it's also interesting to see no room in the team of the year for Sterling. And Conor Gallagher, despite only starting 14 games, does get into that team of the season. So he's another one who will benefit from Kante and Jorginho, hopefully both leaving the club this summer. Reece James had a bit of a clean sweep of Player of the Year and Young Player of the Year. Bellingham got goal of the season. Havertz top scorer once again. And Reece James with a stupendous 29 assists from right back. He does take the corners on the left-hand side, those in-swingers. But that's still a ridiculous number of assists for one man to get in a season. Here's our dynamic manager timeline. Great. And there's our all-time best 11. So the job now is to start shifting some of these boys out. We've lost a couple of hardcore fans and had them replaced by casuals. In fact, it's a percentage that's not fully indicative of what's actually happened. We've been the best team in England for 2 years. I imagine we just brought in a lot of new casuals, which has taken their proportion of hardcore down. I assume that's what's happened. Is there anything else on here we need to worry about? I don't think so. Continued emphasis on signing young players and winning everything, which is pretty much what we do, whether or not the board asked me to. We're going to try and win the Premier League again, although the main thing is we want to win the Champions League under the new format and certainly get a proper play around in that new format. But before we get to that, let's go to China for our thing. Akoli got into the Champions League dream team. I mean, considering we got through to the final, this is very heavily weighted towards the team that won, isn't it? With Real Madrid getting the vast majority of players in the Dream 11. What a strange way for that to work. Mendy got goalkeeper of the year, though, in the Champions League. Akoli third for defender. Musiala second for midfielder. We didn't have anyone on there for striker, though. So maybe if Tammy Abraham or Dominic Calvert-Lewin had got to start a few more games, they would have been on there. But I think job number one is to get these boys on the transfer list that we want rid of. It is a sad day to have to put the likes of Kante and Jorginho on the transfer list, but needs must. We've just had a big cash injection. That's nice. Yes, we'll improve our youth facilities again. There we go. I don't know if we got any money to do that. We were in debt. I guess we had that lovely cash injection. But I think if we sort by age, Kante, I think can go now. We're not going to transfer list them immediately. We'll just offer them out and see what happens first. Jorginho can go. Sterling, I'm a little bit on the fence about. He is obviously injured till Christmas anyway, so we can't get rid of him now. He is still a very useful player when he's fit, but at 29 and coming back off a big injury, not so sure. And I wouldn't be against replacing Mendy. Obviously, 32 is not old for a goalkeeper, but if we got a good offer for him, I'm not against letting him go and bringing in an alternative to play in goal for us. But they're the two we want to get rid of. So we can focus around Camavinga, Bellingham, Gallagher as our midfielders. Probably need to bring one more in with those two leaving. And is there anyone else who didn't really play last year who we should probably bin off? Pedro Gonçalves, maybe. Maybe he's done. Yeah, I think we'll get rid of Gonçalves as well. We want a little bit of a mini clear out. And if anyone comes in and makes an offer for Kai Havertz, Man City and Paris Saint-Germain have. I mean, let's offer him out for 149 million. If anyone offers it, then he can go. Which no one's going to offer it, but we'll offer him out anyway. See what happens. Let's go do that. Couple of weeks into the summer, it's 1 in, 1 out so far. The 1 in, Maxence Lacroix, however we're supposed to say this guy's name. 24 years old now, so it doesn't quite fit the bringing in players under 23 thing, but we were a little light on defenders last year. We only actually had 7 defenders in our first team squad to cover us for the whole season. We were very lucky we didn't really get any injuries back in the defence. Pavard doing an excellent job of being my backup right back and backup centre back, kind of filling in for the fact that we did have probably 1 defender short in the squad, and now we don't. Lacroix is in. If you watched the network game last year, you'll know I love this guy. And he can just slot in as part of 4 centre-backs. Pavard, in my mind, is now just a right-back. And that's now 8 defenders in our first team squad. If we head over to our squad planner, you can see we've got the two left-backs, the 2 right-backs. Ignore this guy. And then the 4 centre-backs with Pavard able to come across and cover at centre-back if needed with Akoli, Fofana, Lacroix, Chalobah. And then you've got James, Cucurella and Pavard, who can all play centre-back as well, but probably won't. Pavard's 30 years old. No, he's not. That's showing us season after next for some reason. I was going to say, Pavard is 30? This is madness. The one that's gone out is Kante. Newcastle have thrown some cash at us to bring in Kante. £26.5 million. Gets his enormous salary off the budget. After 8 years at Chelsea at 33 years old, I think that's a pretty decent piece of business. Barely lost any money on the transfer as well. And it does mean that with the 1 in and 1 out, we're actually on a much lower wage spend now. We've got loads of spare money in our wage budget, and we've barely scratched our transfer budget. So we are able to continue the... I won't call it a rebuild this summer because I don't think there's much more that needs doing to this squad. We could maybe bring in a goalkeeper if Mendy goes. We could maybe do... If Jorginho and Gonçalves both leave, we could maybe do with another midfielder coming in. But there's no obvious issues with this squad, as demonstrated by the fact that we keep winning everything. So we'll see how the summer takes us, see what bargains come up. I am happy that we were able to get Lacroix for a very good price. And if we see anyone else at that kind of very good price, we'll make a move. We've done another 1 in, 1 out, and we're continuing to improve the defence as well. Josko Gvardiol is in. Centre-back who can play left-back. Very similar to the guy who left. The centre-back or the left-back who can play centre-back. I left Marc Cucurella. We were offered £58 million by Real Madrid for him. For a guy who was never going to be my first choice starter, it just seemed like an absolute no-brainer to take that money and then invest a little bit more and bring in a much better player. So £58 million in for Cucurella. Gvardiol is in for 86 million, potentially rising up to 123 with various add-ons and bits and bobs. Similar to what we've got with Pavard on the right. Gvardiol probably won't be the nailed-on starter initially, at least. He's got a lot of potential. But initially, not likely to be a nailed-on starter at centre-back or left-back, but has the potential to surpass what we've got in the team currently in either of those roles. And if he comes in and he's brilliant, he could easily be the starting centre-back in no time, and we'll see where things end up. But still maintains that eight defender situation that we wanted to have whilst doing a massive upgrade, but not a huge financial outlay. We've also loaned Pedro Gonçalves out to Inter Milan for the season. They're paying his full salary, and we also have a future fee, an optional future fee. I mean, it's a low one at 7.5 million. But it just gets quite a big salary off the wage bill. We did try and get Alphonso Davies before we got Gvardiol, but Bayern Munich offered him an enormous new contract as we were in negotiations with him. I thought we had him, and then at the last moment, he slipped through my fingers. Even with those two big signings, we've still got nearly £100 million to spend and a huge amount of spare wage budget. And we're continuing just to play this summer by ear. I would be happy going into the season with this squad, but that money's burning a hole in my pocket, so we've got to do something with it. I'm still trying to get rid of Jorginho. If Jorginho goes, we probably bring in another midfield player. If Hudson-Odoi leaves on loan, which is a possibility, with Gonçalves already gone, we probably look to bring in a new wide player who can compete with Musiala, Mount, Pulisic, in those wide areas. So there's potential areas we could add players in. I'm not in any rush. In other news, England have just won the Euros as well. We've got quite a few players in this England squad that did just win the Euros. That's your starting 11 for England. So Mount, Calvert-Lewin, Bellingham, Gallagher, Chilwell, all my boys. So a very Chelsea-heavy team has just won the Euros in a 3-1 win in the final over Germany, which is very nice to see. My boys doing very, very well. People have suggested I bring Declan Rice back to Chelsea. The reason we can't is because he went to Paris Saint-Germain in the first season. So not really an option to go get him now. But Dominic Solanke of Arsenal is one of England's top players, apparently. That was a very strange sentence to say. There you go. We're carrying on our theme of 1 in, 1 out. Gonçalves went out and we didn't bring one in. So we've brought in Rodrigo for £100 million because we had money burning a hole in our pockets. So what am I going to do? I'm going to sign a Brazilian, obviously. Can play on the left or the right wing. So immediately comes into the squad to replace Gonçalves, who hadn't had the opportunity to play centrally for a little while because of all those central players we signed last summer. We'll free up Musiala to play a little bit more centrally as well. And long-term replacement for Sterling, maybe. Hudson-Odoi is still knocking about the place, but we might loan him out now. But he is... Rodrigo's been looking pretty good for Real Madrid the last couple of years and slots straight into this squad, which is now a squad of 25. We're still trying to get rid of Jorginho. We've been offering him out for free. We've been offering him out on loan. Nobody wants him because of how much salary he's earning. Nearly £200,000 a week. So Jorginho might be sticking around. We've moved Chukwuemeka back up into the first team squad as well, so he's going to be involved in the mix for this coming season. But our wide areas are looking very useful. Now we've got Rodrigo in there as well. So on the left, you could go Musiala, Sterling, Rodrigo, Pulisic. On the right, you've got all the same names. You've got Hudson-Odoi in the mix as well. I mean, there's a lot of options. We don't even use this system all the time either. We'll probably be using this for the Community Shield, which is today. That's not my normal view. There we go. Get back to my normal view. And we're likely to use it for the first game of the season as well, also against Liverpool. But against Leeds, we're probably going to go to the 4-2-3-1 and just continue to be nice and flexible with our systems this year like we have been. That is still not my view. What is going on? There we go. There's my view. What are you doing to me, Football Manager? The plan is we are going to get through a bunch of these matches as part of this video as well. We're not just going to slam the video shut as soon as the Community Shield hits. I want to get right up to the evening of the Champions League draw, and then tomorrow's video will be a proper deep dive on the new style Champions League that comes in place in Season 3. I've just noticed Middlesbrough. What a month we've got in September. We play Norwich, Middlesbrough and Fulham in the league. I just have a month off. Going to be lovely, that one, isn't it? We've squeezed a bargain in, a 9th defender. Serginho Dest can play fullback on either side, mainly because I've started Guardiola at centre-back this season in the first couple of matches, and he's rather useful there, isn't he? So I figured we probably need a little bit of extra fullback cover to allow both Pavard and Guardiola to play at centre-back when needed. So it is a 9th defender. We don't need to sell anyone to fit him in. I think that does get us to a 26-man squad, but of course, Jorginho is on his way out the door, also on his way out the door in an insane piece of business. Bournemouth have offered £6 million for Marcus Bettinelli, our 2-star 4th-choice goalkeeper, who's never been subject to a transfer fee in his life. Bournemouth have lost their minds. There are a couple more fringe players who've moved on as well. We've sold Levi Colwill to Burnley for £6.75 million. Jude Soonsup-Bell left for £8 million to Rangers. Harvey Vale to Newcastle, £7.25 million. Brozier's gone to Zenit for £11.75 million. And Cassidai has also gone to Zenit, £11.25 million. That's how we've kept all this money flowing in. Over £100 million worth of sales this summer. And the only first teamers who've gone, Cucurella, and I think Kante officially went as part of last season. So yeah, it's quite a lot of moving on all of these players Chelsea hoard, but we are pretty much spent up now with Dest coming in. So the only way we're going to do any more business at this point, I would think, is if we sell somebody. Still no interest in Jorginho. There are clubs that want to loan Chukwuemeka. There's still Paris Saint-Germain and Manchester City tracking Kai Havertz, but there's been no offer all summer. I think we're just putting them off with an asking price of 149 million, which is fine because I don't particularly want to sell him. And both Slonina and Mendy are attracting interest as well, but I've got no real plans to sell either of those. So we will continue. We'll see if anything else happens. There's 10 days left until the transfer window closes. That's been our start to the season. A little bit ropey against Liverpool in the league, but fingers crossed we can pick up a couple of wins in these final couple of matches and then crack on with the Champions League from tomorrow's episode. Well, I'll level with you folks, with all the fancy UEFA licensing and whatnot and the new style Champions League competition, I thought we'd get to see a draw. But apparently not. This has just popped up in my inbox. We have our Champions League fixtures. We'll go into this in more detail in tomorrow's video, but there's a single table of 36 teams. We play 8 matches against a mixture of opponents. The teams ranked 1 to 8 go straight through to the round of 16. And then teams ranked 9 to 24 face each other in a knockout to reach the round of 16. I don't know. I don't think this is how it's going to work in real life, which is really weird considering they've got the license. But I don't think they're going to announce all 8 fixtures in advance like this in real life. The fact we've got to play Real Madrid, Dortmund, Barcelona, Roma, these are quite tough fixtures. Apparently, it's a more forgiving fixture list. I mean, I don't understand. And then we have the Champions League league table, which is bonkers. Absolutely bonkers. We'll see how it works in practice tomorrow. For now, we are struggling a little bit in our start to the season because we've just scraped a draw against Leeds with a last-minute equaliser. The deadline day is approaching, So we've got to play Manchester City and get through deadline day. We're, like I say, probably not going to sign anybody else. I'm so confused about this Champions League situation, though. It's completely thrown me. Now, this is a very interesting offer because you could argue we don't necessarily need Benjamin Pavard anymore. He's had one substitute appearance in the first 3 matches. He's, if we look at him at right back, he's our second choice right back behind Reece James, but he's no better than Dest. They're both considered 3-star current ability players. If we compare him at centre back, he's our 6th best centre back. Okay, 5th if you ignore James, but we've got Okoli, Lacroix, Fofana, Chalobah, and we've also got Gvardiol, who's obviously just come in as well. I think there's a very strong argument we don't need Benjamin Pavard anymore. 43 million is already more than we bought him for. If we can drive that up even further for a 28-year-old who's on 150,000 a week, this could be quite good stuff. I don't really want to persuade him to stay. I want to talk to him about what price we could go up to try and let him go. At the minute, yeah, there you go. Valuations are fairly far apart. You know what? We'd definitely take 63 million. Don't even need to negotiate that. If we can... Oh, it's a non-negotiable offer. Well, at least now we've got a price in mind. It's 63 million for him. If Paris Saint-Germain come back in and offer 63 million, tempted to offer him out, to be honest. There you go, 63 million, non-negotiable. He can go. I think that's fair. And with that, we have reached the end of the transfer window. We had another deadline day offer, this time for Pulisic from Bayern Munich, but they didn't quite offer enough money, so didn't feel like rushing either that or a Pavard deal through. So neither of those have materialised, which means these are the big headlines. We sold a lot of those fringe players as well, but the big headlines are Cucurella, Kante and Gonçalves have left. Rodrigo, Gvardiol and Lacroix have come in. And I think that's another pretty good summer of business. Results so far don't necessarily indicate that. 3 draws so far, leaving us firmly in mid-table. But luckily, we've got this nice, easy month to come. But we have got the start of this crazy new Champions League, which I've just realised the league stage goes all the way into the end of January. So this is going to be... It's going to be interesting. That's going to be the next few episodes as we wrap up this series and get ready for Non-League to Legend to start next week. If you have enjoyed that, please make sure you leave a nice big thumbs up on there for me. Subscribe to the channel for daily Football Manager videos. And thank you very much for watching.